what options do landlords have if their tenants are unable to pay rents? Hey, welcome back to the VIP Financial Education YouTube channel, where we help you go further, faster financially while remaining safe in the process. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Super important subject as we roll into another new month of this crazy lockdown. I'm actually sitting at an investment property. For you fans of the channel who are already subscribers, you know that I'm quarantining at a short-term rental property that I own in a beautiful part of Colorado. And so we're working on this property at any given opportunity to make it that much better for our guests when the season opens back up and we can start generating revenue with this property once again. So back behind me here, you can see all the irrigation we're putting in. We're gonna be dropping some grass in here, which will, I think, liven up the place. It's a very dry area of the state. This is the high desert. So I encourage you guys to be doing everything you can. And it leads me into my next conversation point, which is what happens when your renters aren't able to pay? What happens when you're not able to generate the revenue from your tenants that you expect? And my tenants, for one, are having a hard time paying. And you know, that's no big surprise. I mean, renters are facing several challenges right now following the business shutdowns, the furloughs, the layoffs, and of course the stay-at-home orders. And all this stuff has become all too common thanks to coronavirus. It's obvious that the longer this crisis goes on, the more and more difficult it's going to become for millions and millions of renters to pay their rents. I'm asking myself, what can we do as landlords to help our tenants remain our tenants while also mitigating the financial impact that may be just around the corner for us landlords? What about your financial impact? What can you do here? And also, most importantly, how can you help keep your tenants from going homeless in a time when we're really just being told to stay inside? Under any normal circumstances, tenants that don't pay their rents obviously run the risk of losing their place to live. But with this worldwide epidemic that's going on, most states are really turning to that stay-at-home order, and we're in a whole new normal right now. And when you mix that with the fastest growing unemployment rate that we've ever seen, which is like 30 million people since the middle of March, you've obviously got a recipe for a really rocky road ahead. But I want to be clear about one thing before we get too far into the video. We landlords, we hate evicting. If you've ever been through one, you know they're messy. They're a lot of work. It's just awful for everybody that's involved. Now, that being said, there's a reason that evictions exist. And in a normal world, it might be the only option that's left to a landlord. I mean, if a landlord can't pay their mortgage because their tenants aren't paying their rents, then there's a mathematical problem that follows for both the landlord and the tenant. It's just not a good situation. So to combat this from happening right now, the government has stepped in via the CARES Act. And that's put a little bit of money back into the hands of the renters that need it the most. But it's kind of like peeing on a wildfire, as I heard Dave Ramsey recently say. We've also seen a lot of states even placing moratoriums on evictions, and we've seen mortgage providers offering forbearance options. But for many people, forbearances really look to be more of a Trojan horse than a white knight. Okay, it's a temporary solution and a long-term problem. So what options do landlords have if their tenants are unable to pay rents? Before we look at solutions, what I want to do is recommend that we first look at your personal financial situation. So as a landlord, what you need to start with is taking a look at what could happen in a worst case scenario. If you're an intelligent landlord, which I have to assume you are, I mean, after all, you're watching my video here, you've already smashed the like button, so I know you're a smart person. You've probably already done your due diligence and you've considered the situation where your tenants don't pay their rents. But even still, we're living in a completely different version of normal right now. So it is best that you take another look at this potential no rent coming in situation and forecast it out for a worst case of 6 to even 12 months. You can use the Cash Flow Cruncher. It's a free resource that I give everybody that watches this channel, and you can evaluate your worst case scenario with it. Get your copy with no strings attached. Just go to cashflowcruncher.com, one of the most advanced spreadsheets that you'll find anywhere when it comes to personal and business finances. Now, once you've evaluated your worst case scenario, you're gonna have a clearer understanding of your best path forward with your tenants. If your financial situation isn't looking very good when you're forecasting the worst case, you've got to prioritize your actions in order to prevent your own default from happening. Even if you think that you might be able to float a month or two without rental income, it's going to be in your best interest to check into some protective measures right now so that you're ready if things don't happen to improve. Some of the actions that you might want to take are, number one, contacting your lender to see about forbearance options. It's a worst case scenario. You should only take it if needed. And if you're going to go this route, I'd recommend that you not only watch the videos that we've done on forbearances, but also any other videos that you can find on the subject so that you can make a well-informed decision when you make that call. I'm gonna put a couple of those video links in the description below for you. Also, if you do work something out with your lender that happens to make sense, be sure to take a look at various creative options first, like partial payments. That way you don't get too far behind and get stuck behind the 8 ball. Beyond speaking with your lender though, you can also check into assistance that your state might be offering homeowners too. New York, for instance, they've announced a delay of mortgage payments for 90 days. Be sure to check your state's website, see if they're offering anything. Some states and also counties are offering extensions on property taxes right now too. They might even be canceling fees or interest costs if you don't pay your property taxes on time. So make sure you check with your county's tax assessor's website, see what options are available to you based on where your property is located. Now, seeking out a loan might also be a good option, okay? We talk about debt weapons, we say they're for JIC, just in case of opportunity, just in case of emergency. If your short or long-term situation isn't looking very good and your tenants aren't able to pay rent, you could seek out a loan from maybe even family or friends. This is, again, worst case scenario. This is not going to be the answer for very many people, but it might be just what 1 or 2 people here need. Be sure to keep an eye on the U.S. Small Business Administration as well. Their disaster loan assistance program could serve as a source of help. That's if, of course, they receive more funding to make those grants or loans. I do recommend checking in with the SBA regularly so that you can be first in line if any money becomes available. It goes very quickly right now. The last one to check into for the loan category would be your regular bank or credit union. Depending on your situation, they may be willing to extend you a loan if you need one in order to keep your rental going, but that's going to be trickier and trickier too. So check what you have available now and see what you can get if you need more. Now, for those of you guys that have a better worst case scenario forecast, there are going to be several ways that you could provide a temporary solution to your tenants. The first thing that you need to do is have a direct conversation with them. Okay, be communicative. Find out what their situation is. Are they still working right now? Are they expecting to continue working? Has their pay been reduced, et cetera, et cetera? My tenants, for instance, actually are not working right now, which is disappointing. I mean, guys, my tenant, one in particular, has a contract, he's a subcontractor, he does custom home remodels. And right now what we've been trying to do with them is just simply find a good balance, one that's sustainable for both of us. And once you know what your tenant's situation is and the unique challenges that it provides to them, you can actually offer a temporary solution that makes sense. Stuff that we've considered, for example, rent forgiveness. Now, this one is for landlords whose situations allow for it. If you can afford to do this, it could be an effective way to give your tenants a breathing room. The tenant that I'm discussing is in a property that we own free and clear. That property we don't have any mortgages on. It's all cash flow. We normally charge $3,000 in rent. So I'm able to give them a rent reduction and afford it, and it allows them then to get their situation back on track so that they can then get back to paying rent per the original rental agreement. Let's go through kind of a more specific example of that. You could waive rent for 1 month with an agreement to revisit the payment arrangement on a certain date. What we did instead was we went ahead and reduced the rental amount by $250 as a courtesy. We did that ahead of them explaining that they needed it. It was just out of good faith. We're not asking for them to come back and pay it at any point in time. It was simply a gift. Another temporary solution would be to postpone rent. Okay, this could look similar to the rent forgiveness example that I was describing, but differing only in that the tenant agrees to pay back the amount of rent that you ended up reducing by. We also went ahead and said, listen, you paid last month's rent first. Before you even moved in, you paid first month, last month's security deposit. We can, if needed, supplement a portion of that last month and reduce a current month, and then they would still be responsible for making that last month's mortgage payment again down the road. But that at least helps cover some of it, and we were willing to do 1/3 of their last month's rent for a total of 3 months' rent. Now, the tenant that we offered that to hasn't taken us up on it yet, but it is something that we've put out there for them, and we've given them the ability to think about it and know that that protection is in order if necessary. Again, I think a communicative approach, a really transparent, honest approach, will help keep your tenant honest with you versus still being out there working and making money like normal and then pretending as if they're affected when they aren't. So the more generous, empathetic, understanding, and caring you are, the more they're going to reciprocate that back for you by way of being open with you. And they're going to want to work with you. That's been my experience thus far. One last suggestion that I would recommend for you guys that worked really, really well with this same subcontractor tenant. Because he happens to be a very, very talented contractor, that does these custom remodels, I recently found out that the property needed to have some repair. There was a leak that was happening into the basement, which has been that's getting remodeled right now by that same tenant. I'm going to get to that in a second. And we had a snowfall, the snow melted and was leaking through this rotted out window well. I had a third party come in, offer me a bid. They said it's going to cost $2,400 to get this done. I offered my tenant $750 to do it instead, and he could not have been happier. He went out there, dug it out the same exact day. Here's a couple pictures of what it looks like. He did a tremendous job on this thing. He extended the size of it. We have had no issues with leaking since. He seemingly corrected the problem, and I got a deep discount on that project, saving 2/3 of the cost. So it was a win-win for both of us. We're taking that a step further now, and because this stay-at-home order has kept him from working these jobs that he was in the middle of before, he's now remodeling the basement of this home and obviously substantially increasing the value of the property. In fact, I just had it appraised, and that property's value has gone up about $15,000 already in just the last couple of months because of the addition of this extra bedroom, while he's also remodeling the bathroom. So really working out well in this case. Find out whether or not your tenants have any skills that could allow you to trade some work for a discount on their rents. Right now is going to require as much creativity as you guys can come up with. You're going to have to think out of the box. We are not living in the same time and the same type of normal that we had before. The more creative that you and your tenants can get together, I think the more you guys can both come up with a situation that avoids any complications down the road. So I just wanted to encourage you landlords out there that there are ways through this. I know that it's a really tricky time. The number one thing is that everybody stays safe and healthy. Aside from that, be sure that you don't get stuck in one place with one mentality and being too narrowly focused. You can do a lot more than that if you're willing to give it some thought. So thanks for tuning in. I hope this was worth some ideas. If you have any other ideas, I'd love to hear about them in the comments section below. So please drop a comment. What are you guys doing to collect rents? Let's all work together on this and help each other out. Other than that, please smash the like button. It helps us a lot. Consider subscribing to the channel. We'll see you on the next video. Until then, love you very much. Take good care. Bye-bye.